Hello there. In this tutorial, our goal is to learn how to return random elements from arrays in JavaScript. Okay, so first we'll be looking at one, a quick overview of arrays in JavaScript, two, using the math.random method, and then using the math.floor method, and then just look at functions again. Okay, so let's look at it. When you want to create a variable for arrays in JavaScript, you just have to bring your either your const keyword or your let keyword or your var keyword, right? And then you bring the name here. So we are going to work with an array of foods. So foods, and then that's the name of our array. Bring your equal to sign, and then you bring your square bracket to indicate that you want to store an array. So we are going to store strings of food names. So let's say rice, beans, and let's say wache over here. Bring our semicolon. So when you want to um, return only one element from the array, this is how we are going to do it. So we're going to use our console.log to see our output in the console. So console.log foods, you bring a square bracket, and then 0 will be the first element in the array. So in JavaScript, anything stored in for things stored in or for elements stored in arrays, you start counting from 0, right? Instead of 1 2 3, right? It's going to be 0 1 2 3. Okay, so if we want to use a variable to store the current food, we'll just create another one. Let's say var food is equal to food, let's say 2, right? So over here I can just change it for food. Okay, and now we get the last item in the array, which has the index of 2. Okay, so this is like a general overview of the arrays in JavaScript. Okay, this is what we are going to be working with. Okay, now one thing we are going to learn again is to find the length of arrays in JavaScript. Okay, so that one, it is pretty simple. So you just type the array name, right? The array name, and then you bring your full stop here, and then you type length. Okay, so this will actually return as the length of items in the array. So we get 3 over here, meaning we have 1 2 3 items over here, right? So that's what I'm going to be working with. Okay, now let me just bring that one here. Now we want to be able to generate random values. Okay, so the idea is that we are going to work with this code, but this one is going to be a random value. So at some point it can be 1, at some point it can be 0. Okay, and that's what we're going to learn how to do. So in JavaScript, we have this class called math. It's actually part of the JavaScript program, and then you have JavaScript programming language, and then you have a method. Okay, so whenever we use dots after let's say a name of a class or something, it refers to a method. Okay, so math dot random, right? Then you bring your parenthesis over here. So what this does is that it actually returns you a value from 1 to 0. Sorry, so from 0 to 1. Okay. So when I write this code here and then I run it, I'll get random value. Okay. So it is actually from 0 to 1. Okay. So if we wanted to return a random value between 0 to 100, we just need to multiply the math.random by 100. And now we are getting values between 0 to 100. Okay, so that's basically how the math.random works. Okay, now I mentioned that we are going to use the math.random to get values to place inside the index position over here, right? And now we actually have to use integers, okay, because when we put in 2.3 over there, it wouldn't work, right? That is when we get to use the math.floor method. Okay, so that one too, let me just put this one aside, and then let's look at how it works. So cancel the log math.floor, right? If I put in 2 over here, it will just return 2 to me, okay? If I put in 2.999 over here, it will actually give me 2, okay? So what the math.floor does is that it rounds values down, okay? So that's what we're going to use for this for our indexes for the arrays, okay? So over here too, we are going to assume that, you see, when we use the math.random times 100 over here, we're getting a values between 0 to 100, okay? But then they are actually raw numbers or decimal numbers, okay? So what we can just do is that we can bring this, cut it, and then paste it over here. So in essence, we are getting random values that are being rounded down, okay? Now we have 48. Now we have 28. Okay, so that's basically how to return or have or like get random values. Okay, so let me just create this to be let's let me just use var. Okay, var random value is equal to math.floor, right? And then everything in it. Okay, now we are going to take this and then bring it over here. Okay, so we have our foods array over here, we have the random values over here, okay, and then we have this one. Let me just clear this and then bring this one down because we are going to work with that one based on the foods array. Okay, so per what we wrote earlier, we are actually getting random values from 0 to 100, right? But we want to actually work based on the indexes over here. Okay, so let's say if I do something like foods and then I put in 200, or let's say 99, and then I run the code, it will give me undefined because it is actually out of range. So we want to work with random values that are actually within the range of the length of the array. Okay, so instead of 100 over here, we are going to use foods dot length. Okay, I hope you remember how we use this code, right? We are just using it to get the length of the array. Okay, so instead of 99, we just put random value over there, and when we run it, we are getting random values. Okay, rice, beans, beans. Okay, they're actually random, although they are repeating, they're actually random. Okay, so that is basically how to use the random, like the random model, right? Plus the arrays, and then the map the floor to like get random values from the arrays. Okay, so that's basically it. Okay, so what if we wanted to return the random values multiple times, right? Maybe we had a long code and then we wanted to use this program, like this short code, multiple times. Okay, one idea that will come to mind is to do something like this. Okay, let me just use this. If I do it this way and I run the code, what do you think will happen? Let's see. When I run it, we are getting beans, 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 because we are using the same random value over here. So another ideal method is to copy and paste this code all over again. So copy, paste, or paste, paste over here. And when I run the code, we are getting random values. Okay. But then this is not nice, right? We want to actually use a way to use the code without having to copy it multiple times, right? That's what we are going to use next. And then in that case, we are going to use functions in JavaScript. Okay, so in JavaScript, when you want to create a function, you just type the keyword function keyword over here, and then you add a name. Okay, so let's say, let me just call the function get random food. Okay, and then I'll bring my parentheses over here, and I'll bring my close and curly brackets over here. So between the curly brackets is where our code is going to be, but then between the parentheses we have to put in parameters. Okay, so the main idea of using a function is that when you call the function, it will look in an array over here and then return to us the random element in it. Okay, so same thing over here. Let me just bring this here and let's see. So we have the foods array over here. Now we are going to copy the random value over here, right? And then put it over here. Okay, now we can't actually use foods.length because we don't want to be working with this variable only. We want to work with the variable that is actually passed into the function. Okay, so we use the name to be ARL. It could have been any name at all, right? But let me just use ARL, right? So over here, we want to for us to get a random value, you have to find the length of that array that is being passed. So ARL, right? Now we just put this one here inside a function, console.log inside a function. So we have something like this. So to call this function, we just type the name here, get random food, and then we pass in the food array over here, foods array over here, and then we run the code. So you see we are still getting the random values, right? Which shows that our code is working. So rather than copying and pasting the whole thing all over again, you can just do something like this, and then we will get random values, right? This looks better, right? Cool. Now, what if we wanted to work with that specific random food we are getting? Let's say we have something like var. You could use let, or you could use const. It will also work. Okay. So let's say we have a variable called details, right? And then the details is actually, let's say, food name plus the price. Okay, let me just use price over here. Okay, let me just use food name plus, let's say, Ghana cedis 2.00. Okay, and now let me just comment these ones out and then create a variable food name is equal to rice, right? When I run the code, we get, okay, I didn't cancel the log yet, right? Details. When I run it, we are getting rice is 2 cedis, right? So let's say ideally you might be thinking that why don't we just copy this one here, or let's say cut in my situation and then paste it over here, so that let's say when this function is called, it will store it into the food name variable and then it will be passed over here, right? But when we run the code, we actually get undefined. Okay, so we got two outputs over here, wache and then undefined. We got the wache because when we call the function over here, it did console.log over here, right? But the problem is that when we console.log the details, this one was undefined because nothing was saved into this variable, right? And then to actually save the value we are getting into this variable, we have to use return instead, right? You can remove the bracket, it will still work. Okay, now let's call it. When we call it, you see that we have rice is 2 Ghana cedis. Okay, so instead of getting the two outputs over here, we actually got one, which was the right one, right? And this one was actually added to it because there was a console.log over here. So to get that like that again, we just have to do console.log. Let's say food random value. Okay. Please don't forget to add your semicolons because like it's very important. Now when I run it again, we are getting rice and then the details over here. Okay, yeah, so that is like basically, let me just make everything simple. Let me just remove this, and then instead of the food name, yeah, over here we're just going to use this, right? And I'll clear this, and then we have something like this. Okay, meaning if you wanted to use the random value you are getting from the random food you are getting from this function, we just have to use these details. Okay, so let's say I can just actually just remove this and then make it random food, right? That means we have stored this current random food in this variable, right? So wherever I'll use my wherever I'll need the random food variable, I can just use the name and then I'll be good to go. Okay, let me just do a quick overview again. So we created a function for get random food, right? And then inside the function, we created a variable called random value, and then we said that we want to return a random value that is between 0 and then the length of the array which is being passed into the function. And then because we can't use real numbers or decimal numbers, we have to use math.floor on it. Okay, and then we stored it as a random value. So in essence, we just return the foods, the random value of the foods array, right? And then we are good to go. Okay, so this is our array of foods, and then we pass it into, when you call the function over here, we pass the foods array into the function, right? And then we return just one random food and then saved it into this variable, right? And then finally we cancel or logged it. Okay, so I could have just done cancel the log, get random food, and then you're actually good to go. Okay, beans, right? It could have also been, I could have also passed the array straight into it like this, and then put it here, and then it will still work, right? Wait. Okay, so you see the problem. So it's good that you stuck around onto this part, because if we hadn't reached to this point, I wouldn't have realized that I made a mistake over here. Okay, so do you remember that when we were using it, this one was actually foods, right? When we last copied it from this side, it was foods.length, right? But because we were going to use based on this parameter, that's why we changed this name to ARL. But I forgot to change this one to ARL. Okay, so that's it, right? So when we run the code again, we get the we get everything working. I hope it's cool. All right, so leave any comments or questions in the comment section, and then I'll be glad to answer. All right, so that's it.